Have you ever whispered to yourself, maybe that part of me is just over? You're in your 60s, 70s, maybe even your 80s, and somewhere along the way, quietly without warning, intimacy disappeared. Not just sex, but the feeling of being touched, wanted, truly seen. No one talks about this, but I will because I've seen the cost of that silence. I'm Dr. James Carter. For over 30 years, I've worked with older adults across the country, and there's one truth that still breaks my heart every time. When intimacy fades, your body begins to change, your mind begins to slow, and something even deeper, your sense of self, starts to quietly disappear. This isn't just about romance. It's about blood flow, brain health, hormones, relationships, even how long you live. And most people don't hear that truth until it's too late. But you are not too late. You are not broken. And today I want to show you how even one small step back toward connection can change everything. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Type your city or state in the comments below. And if this already speaks to you, hit like, share this with someone you care about, and subscribe for more gentle, honest advice made just for you. Let's begin. Your brain needs connection, not just memory games. Walter was 72 when he first walked into my office. A retired school principal, well-dressed, polite, the kind of man who still carried a pocket watch and called everyone sir or ma'am. But that day, something was different. He sat down, sighed, and looked me in the eye. "Doc," he said, "I can't remember names anymore. I forget why I walked into a room. My mind just feels slow, like I'm watching life from behind a window." Naturally, we ran all the usual tests. No signs of stroke, no dementia diagnosis, no obvious cause. Physically, Walter was fine, but emotionally, he was fading. It wasn't until a few honest conversations later that I asked gently about his personal life. He paused, then admitted, "It's been almost 6 years since I've felt close to anyone. Since my wife passed, that part of me just went quiet." Now, most people wouldn't think that matters, but it does. And I want to explain why. You see, intimacy isn't just about romance or pleasure. It's a form of brain stimulation, one of the most powerful we have. When we connect physically or emotionally with another person, our brain lights up. Literally. Areas responsible for memory, learning, focus, and emotional balance become active. And not just active, nourished. Touch, affection, even gentle closeness releases dopamine, the chemical that helps you focus and feel good, oxytocin, the bonding hormone that builds trust and calm, and endorphins, your body's natural painkillers and mood boosters. These aren't just pleasant sensations. They are biological protectors, slowing down cognitive aging, sharpening your memory, and reducing your risk of early dementia. But when we go months or years without that kind of connection, something shifts. The brain stops getting that healthy stimulation. Blood flow slows in certain areas. Mood drops. Focus blurs. And for many, life feels duller, heavier, even if everything else seems fine on the surface. Walter wasn't broken. He wasn't sick. He was just missing something. His brain had always relied on human connection. What's heartbreaking is how quietly this happens. There's no warning light, no sharp pain, just a slow fading. You become less social, less curious, less motivated to get out of bed, eat well, or talk to friends. And then one day someone asks how you're doing and you realize you don't really know. But here's the truth I want you to hear loud and clear. Your brain is still hungry for connection, and it's never too late to give it what it needs. You don't need to start dating or have some dramatic love affair. This isn't about performance, it's about presence. A warm hug, holding someone's hand, a shared laugh, even just sitting close and talking without distraction. These small moments feed your brain in ways puzzles and memory apps never could. In fact, research shows that regular physical affection, even non-sexual touch, can improve memory, reduce anxiety, and extend mental clarity well into your 80s and beyond. Walter eventually joined a local grief support group. There he found not just friends, but touch, conversation, and laughter. Within months, his mood improved. His memory came back sharper, and he told me one day with a small smile, "I don't feel behind the glass anymore." So if your mind has felt foggy, if your energy is low, don't just reach for vitamins or crossword puzzles. Reach for someone. Because your brain doesn't just need stimulation, it needs connection. Let that sink in. You're not losing your mind. You might just be missing touch. Circulation hormones in the silent decline. Linda and Frank had been married for nearly 40 years. They had raised 3 children, built a quiet life in Virginia, and always prided themselves on being a strong, stable couple. But when they came to see me, they weren't looking for advice on love. They were looking for answers to a mystery. Frank, at 68, said he just didn't feel like himself anymore. "I'm tired all the time," he admitted. "I've gained weight, my joints ache, and I can't seem to get motivated to do anything, not even go out in the yard." Linda nodded beside him quietly. "We just thought maybe this is what getting old looks like," she added. But something didn't sit right with me. Frank had always been active, healthy, engaged. So what changed? As we talked more, they revealed something they hadn't shared with anyone else. Their physical intimacy had quietly disappeared over the past 5 years. No arguments, no dramatic moment, just life responsibilities, health scares, and slowly they had stopped reaching for each other. Most people wouldn't connect that with declining health, but they should. What we often forget is that intimacy isn't just about romance. It's a form of cardiovascular exercise. When you're physically close with someone, whether through touch arousal or even gentle affection, your heart rate rises, your breathing deepens, your blood vessels expand. These small but powerful changes increase circulation, delivering oxygen-rich blood to your brain, your muscles, your skin. When that closeness stops, so does that natural rhythm. Over time, blood vessels stiffen, circulation slows, and your heart and brain receive less oxygen. You might notice your legs feel heavier, your energy dips, your balance weakens, but you won't necessarily link it to a missing hug or a quiet bedroom. Then there's the hormonal side. And this is where the changes become even more profound. In men, the absence of physical intimacy, especially after 60, often leads to a significant drop in testosterone. This isn't just a male issue. Low testosterone means lower energy, muscle loss, mood swings, belly fat, and even depression. You might think it's aging, but it's often imbalance. For women, the lack of emotional and physical closeness contributes to falling levels of estrogen and oxytocin. The result: hot flashes, joint pain, vaginal dryness, poor sleep, and a sense of emotional flatness. And while these symptoms may feel like they crept in overnight, they often grow in the silence left behind when connection fades. But here's what I need you to know. You don't need a perfect body or passionate sex life to fix this. Just gentle, meaningful contact, a hand on the back, a hug that lasts a few seconds longer, lying together and talking in the dark can begin to restore those natural rhythms. That's because the body doesn't just react to intercourse, it responds to intention, affection, presence. Even non-sexual touch triggers the release of oxytocin, your body's natural calming and healing hormone. Frank and Linda began slowly holding hands on the couch again, brushing shoulders as they cooked dinner, even sharing quiet kisses before bed. Within months, Frank's energy improved. His weight stabilized. Linda began sleeping through the night again. And more importantly, they both said they felt closer, like themselves again. So if your health has felt like it's slipping and nothing seems to help, look not just at what's missing in your diet or your exercise routine. Look at what's missing in your connection. Because sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't a pill, it's being touched by someone who still sees you. How disconnection erodes your relationship. And Elaine was 74 when she sat across from me. She wore a neat blouse, spoke softly, and carried herself with grace. Her husband Thomas had survived a battle with cancer 2 years earlier, but the fight had taken more than just his health. It had taken the closeness between them. "I don't want him to feel pressured," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "But I miss being touched. I miss feeling like someone's wife, not just their nurse." That line stayed with me for a long time, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true and painfully common. You see, when physical intimacy disappears from a relationship, not by choice, but by circumstance, something fragile begins to break. It's not loud, it's not angry, it's just quiet. Quiet dinners, quiet evenings, quiet bodies lying next to each other miles apart. At first we tell ourselves it's temporary. We're tired, we say. We're focused on healing. This will pass. But then weeks turn into months, months into years. And without meaning to, we stop reaching for one another. We stop flirting. We stop believing we are still desirable. We become partners in logistics and caregiving, but not in love. That kind of silence doesn't show up in medical charts, but it shows up in the soul. It shows up in the way someone avoids the mirror, in the way they dress for comfort, but no longer for joy, in the way they begin to think, maybe that part of me is gone. Maybe I'm no longer someone to be wanted, and the pain isn't limited to couples. For older adults who are single, widowed, or divorced, the loss of connection can become a slow erosion of identity. Not having someone to hug you, to call you beautiful, to look at you with affection can feel like you're fading from your own life. You become functional, but not full, alive, but not seen. Because here's the thing, loneliness isn't always about being alone. It's about being unseen. It's about sharing a home with someone who no longer touches you, or moving through life with no one who sees the tenderness still living inside you. And over time, that emptiness becomes something heavier. It can turn into resentment, shame, or a deep sadness you don't even know how to name. I've met men who felt like they failed their wives because their bodies no longer responded. I've met women who stopped expressing desire because they thought they weren't allowed to want anymore. But the truth is, you are still a whole person. You don't lose your need to be held just because your hair turns gray. You don't stop being worthy of affection just because decades have passed. And no reconnection doesn't always look like it used to. Sometimes it starts with a conversation. Sometimes it starts with a gentle touch that says, "I still see you." Elaine and Thomas began with a small ritual. Every night before turning off the light, they held hands. That was it. Just hands. No pressure, no expectations. But within weeks, the silence between them softened. They laughed more. They leaned in. And little by little, they found their way back not to who they were, but to who they still were. If you felt that silent ache, if you've wondered whether anyone still sees you, not just your age or your role, but you, let this be a reminder. You are still someone to be wanted. You are still someone worth reaching for. The link between intimacy and longevity. At 81, Harold still wakes up before the sun. He brews a pot of coffee, opens the blinds to let the morning light in, and before doing anything else, leans over to kiss his wife Ruth on the forehead. Every morning without fail. When I asked him once what keeps him so sharp, so full of life, his answer was simple: I still flirt with my wife. I still hold her. I still feel alive. Harold doesn't run marathons. He's not on a special diet, but he's outlived most of his high school friends. And when you sit with him, there's something unmistakably vibrant about the way he speaks, the way he smiles. It's not youth, it's connection. What Harold may not realize is that his morning ritual, the kiss, the touch, the laughter isn't just sweet, it's life-extending. Science backs him up. Studies, including a powerful one from the British Medical Journal, have shown that older adults who maintain regular physical and emotional intimacy, whether sexual or simply affectionate, live longer. Significantly longer. Why? Because touch changes your body chemistry. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone linked to heart disease, inflammation, and immune dysfunction. It increases oxytocin, which calms the nervous system and promotes emotional stability. Intimacy boosts endorphins, which lower pain and elevate mood. It strengthens your heart, improves sleep quality, and even helps regulate blood pressure. You don't need to be having wild passion. You don't even need to perform. It's not about sex, it's about closeness. It's about feeling seen, held, connected. And when that disappears, the body feels it deeply. Without physical affection, stress levels remain high. The body stays in a subtle fight-or-flight mode. That affects digestion, sleep, memory, immunity. Over time, the constant strain contributes to chronic illnesses, heart conditions, depression, fatigue. Even the risk of early death increases. It's something I've seen again and again in my years of working with older adults. Those who continue to experience touch, whether through hand-holding, hugs, kisses, or gentle affection, age differently. They move with more ease, they speak with more joy, they're more likely to engage in life, and the reverse is equally true. Those who've been without connection for years often carry a kind of tension in their bodies, a quiet sorrow they can't quite name. Their shoulders slump, their eyes dull. Not because they are unloved, but because they've stopped being touched. You see, touch isn't just emotional, it's biochemical, and it saves lives. Harold and Ruth don't need to go anywhere fancy. They watch old movies. They eat dinner on the porch. But they hold hands under the table. They lean into each other when they laugh. And in those small moments, their bodies are healing themselves quietly, powerfully. So if you've been living without that kind of connection, know this: you haven't missed your window. You haven't aged out. You are still wired for touch, and your body still responds. Start small. Hug someone a few seconds longer. Sit close to a friend. Hold your own hand when you feel anxious. These gestures may seem simple, but they send powerful signals to your brain, your heart, and your immune system. You're not alone. You are loved. You are safe. In the end, longevity isn't just about medication or clean eating. It's about meaning. It's about connection. And sometimes it starts with just one honest touch. It's never too late to start again. Marianne was 78 when she came to see me. Sharp, elegant, and still deeply thoughtful. She wore pearl earrings, brought homemade cookies, and spoke with the careful grace of a woman who lived fully but quietly for too long. I know this might sound silly at my age, she began, eyes cast down, but I miss feeling like a woman, not someone's grandmother, not someone's neighbor, just a woman. It had been almost a decade since Marianne had felt any kind of affection, no hugs, no glances, no one reaching for her hand. She wasn't bitter. She had family, good friends, a cozy home. But something deep inside her had gone still. She had stopped expecting that part of life. She assumed it was simply over. But what Marianne didn't know, and what so many people don't, is that it's never too late to start again. You don't have to be 30. You don't need perfect skin or flawless joints. You just need one thing: the willingness to reach again. Intimacy isn't about performance. It's not about sex, not necessarily. It's about presence, a shared moment, a simple conversation with someone who looks at you, truly looks, and sees someone worth holding. And for many older adults, especially those who are single, widowed, or living alone, this idea feels distant, even impossible. But I've seen over and over again, reconnection can begin with yourself. Start by putting lotion on your hands like they matter. Look at your reflection without judgment. Place your hand over your own heart and say, I'm still here. Because you are. You are still here. And the parts of you that long to be touched, to be cherished, to be fully seen, they haven't disappeared. They've only been waiting. When Marianne began her journey back to herself, it didn't involve dating or grand romance. It started with a small act. She allowed herself to miss touch without shame. She bought a soft throw blanket. She lit candles in the evening, not for anyone else, just for herself. And eventually she joined a book circle, not to meet someone, but to belong again. And something shifted. One evening, a man named Richard, 82, kind-eyed, and a retired jazz musician sat next to her and asked about the novel they'd just finished. Their hands brushed when they both reached for the same cup of tea, and just like that, she felt something awaken. Not fireworks, not passion, but connection. Warm, simple, real. Weeks later, she told me, smiling, I didn't know how much life I still had inside me. That's the beauty of the stage of life. You're not rushing, you're not trying to prove anything. You're just finally ready to feel deeply without apology. So if you're reading this and wondering, is it too late for me? Let me be clear, it's not. You're not done. You're just beginning a wiser, softer chapter. Start wherever you are, with a conversation, a walk with someone you care about, or simply sitting beside someone in silence and allowing yourself to hope. Because the truth is, you are still someone worth touching, still someone worth knowing, still someone worth loving. And the most beautiful chapters, sometimes they don't come until you've lived enough to write them fully. If you've made it this far, take a deep breath and let these truths settle into your heart. When intimacy fades from our lives, the effects go far deeper than we often realize. Our brain begins to age faster quietly, losing sharpness and joy. Our hormones fall out of balance, draining energy and shifting our mood. Relationships erode not from anger, but from silence and distance. Even our lifespan shortens as stress rises and connection fades. And perhaps most painfully, we begin to lose our sense of self-worth, no longer feeling seen, touched, or wanted. But none of this has to be final. You are still here. You are still worthy of touch, of closeness, of being known, not for what you do, but for who you are. Whether you're 60 or 90, partnered or alone, it is not too late to reconnect with someone else or with yourself. Even one honest moment of closeness can begin to bring your vitality back. So let me ask, did this message touch something in you today? If it did, type yes in the comments. Let others know they're not alone. And if you know someone who's been living in silence, share this with them. You never know what door it might reopen. And if this felt like the kind of truth you want more of, hit like and subscribe. Because here you'll always be reminded, you are not too old. You are not done. You are still deeply, beautifully human.